Hello and welcome to the DoneJS contributors meeting. Today is Friday, May 25th, 2018. My name is Chasen Lahar, coming to you from Long Beach, California. Today joined by some Vitovians and core team members alike. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hello, Julian from Germany. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you, Julian.
This is Justin. My days of doing beer keg clean and jerks are over.
Sorry to hear about your back.
Hey, I'm Kevin. That's it.
Hey there, this is Manuel calling from Denver.
This is Matthew. I'm going to try real hard to not cough all over everyone in this meeting. I got a little bit of a cold.
Hey, this is Ryan, Boulder, Colorado.
Good to see you guys. So today we're going to go through demos of what we've been working on over the last couple of weeks. And then if there are any topics after that, we'll get to those. I'll get us started. Let me share my screen. And OK. So I actually don't have a whole lot, but I want to call out some contributions recently. So I don't want to butcher his name. I'm going to guess Kirui Sun. He contributed a change to can route push state for not removing the hash and the URL when the page starts. So that's now fixed in can route push states. And then Greg pointed out an issue with can debug working in Webpack and confirmed a fix. So that's out. Can debug is now working correctly in Webpack. So just wanted to call those out. This Wednesday, I hosted a DoneJS LA. If you're in the greater Los Angeles area, definitely join this meetup. And every like 5 or 6 weeks, we do a meetup that focuses on one of the CanJS guides or CLJS guides or that sort of thing. So for the meetup on Wednesday, we went through the video player. I really like this guide because it shows you how to build your own custom controls for the video element, which is a common thing if you've ever worked on a project that plays video. That's such a common thing to be able to need to customize these controls, making them behave differently, design them differently, what have you. So this guide goes through that. One thing I like in particular is in CanJS, there's no minor releases of the framework that's needed to support native DOM events for things like listening to when a video starts playing or is paused. So that's one of the things I like that it goes over in the guide. And then I have been continuing to work on a survey item, the improve routing to components. Over the last couple weeks, do the boring one first. So this new can bind module that I think I went over 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, maybe, in replacing the internals of can stash bindings. Gonna do the same thing with can route. So this isn't super exciting. What is being able to call a component's constructor function to create a new component, and then let me bump up the size, and then to be able to pass in a view model that has the properties that you want bound, and you can pass in like plain values like this, and you can also pass in bindings. So in the routing instance, if you want to create a new component and then have it bound to your app state or whatever, you'll be able to use a new can value module that mimics the same like one-way parent to child or child to parent or two-way bindings. So I've got a branch open where this is working in can component, hoping to land that next week. And all of this will be a part of a CanJS 4.3, which hopefully I'll be able to demo in 2 weeks. I think that's all I've got. Justin, do you wanna go next?
Sure, happy to.
Thanks.
So I've been working on can set for the new can query logic, as a lot of people know. I wanted to just show a little demo page that I've been working on that just shows off kind of the nice stuff now with can query logic. Wrong window open. So one thing I've been, I've come to realize is that CanJS has really good, if you want to make a CRUD list where you can create items, delete them, all of that stuff, CanJS really has your back. It's really, really good at that. So here, I'm eventually going to make it so you can edit to-dos and things like that. But here I can create to-dos, and I can filter them and kind of sort them and paginate the results a little bit. So I just wanted to show how relatively simple it was to get this working and some of the nice features. Such as if I want to show only the complete ones, but I make one incomplete, it gets removed. If I am showing all and I were to change its date to later, see, it's like this one is, let me sort by the due date. So if I were to make this one on the 19th to the 20th, to the 20th, see how it, was it organized laundry? It just moves automatically. With an animation that would be a little bit easier to see for the user, but the fact that it moves to where it belongs, all of that stuff is really easy. If I could create one, and this will need to be, I'll just do foo bar. This will automatically, or it should, if I probably didn't break something by accident. I'll have to look into why I broke that. This was working, but I've been messing with it. It would normally show up in there. So I just wanted to show like how easy this is now with all the parts of CanJS. So I can create a to-do model. Now you instead of providing, there is no can query logic that you'll actually see here. It infers everything from the to-do type that's passed to your model or passed to your connection. So here I just say, oh, it's the ID is the uniquely identifying property. Complete is Boolean. Due date is of type date, and can connect can figure a whole bunch of things out with that now. I am using the real-time REST model. Again, that's going to read from to-do and its type definitions to figure out how to be able to make data requests to it. And actually, it can do things with the fixture as well. We'll see. Here, I'm just generating a bunch of random data in my fixture, but I'm passing it the to-do type. And because of that, it knows how to, actually sort and filter dates and things like that. And then my list is mostly, I just have these options that are going to populate the sort option, whether it's empty, name, or due date. I have a complete, whether it's incomplete or complete. Do filter is anytime, today, or week. And all these are doing is really, on my to-dos promise, changing my filter, my sorting options accordingly. And you can see here for the date, I can do today, I can do this week, I can do anytime, I can do all results. All that's doing now, and this works nice with the greater than and equal or less than works now. So here I can say, if the date was today, make a time that's right now, move it one day ahead, convert those to strings. They don't actually have to be strings. These could be the numbers, and everything would work as well, because CanFixture's smart enough to get a number to know how to convert that to a date. And everything just works. So it's great. That's that. The only other thing I wanted to show was, I guess there's two other things, we made this evil Tinder that works in mobile. What I really like about this is how it basically implements drag drop kind of motions and swipes. And it does it the way that you really want to do it, which is to listen on the object when the user makes the down motion, but then start listening to the document as they move and as they release. That allows you to like handle a swipe that kind of went off kilter a little bit. So that works really nice. And the other nice thing that CanJS makes this really easy because I can listen on document pointer move, document pointer up, but I can stop listening on all of those event listeners pretty easily. I really like that. And then the final thing was...
Can you explain how that's working? Every time the point, so you're only going to get the pointer up once, right? Yeah, once the pointer's up, you stop listening on... What's that do?
I'm always listening on the current...
pointer down.
Pointer down. So that I start listening pointer down, and then I save the X position of where the pointer down happened. And then as pointer move happens, I'm updating this how far we've moved coordinate. Right. So this is kind of like where we are now minus where we began. So if like we started at, let's just say this is 300 pixels wide, I started at 150 pixels and I moved to 0, how far we've moved is negative 150 pixels.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just using, it's just setting the left position of this element with how far we've moved. And then when we do pointer up, we just check if we are in the liking state or the noping state, and then call either like or nope. And then we reset everything and make it so we stop listening on the document pointer up and pointer move.
Okay, that's the part that I'm trying to understand.
This stop listening?
Yeah, so it's well, you know, it's just gonna stop listening on everything that we're listening to on the document.
Yeah, just specific things on the document. Just specifically this view model's event listeners on the document.
Okay.
So I could write, if I wanted to expand, I could do pointer move here, and then also pointer up. But the reason, just to make it, if it's not obvious why to do this, is if I wasn't stopped listening and I moved, now I've let go, but I'm still moving, even though my mouse isn't down. Right? I want to ignore those moves. Right? The app kind of breaks. So that's what this is. That's what this is for.
And then you start listening again on the next pointer down.
Because I'm still listening pointer down.
Right.
Okay, so then the final thing real quick, and this is just useful for people who are even, I would say, CanJS doing CanJS 4.0. I created this, I eventually want to make this a little even nicer, but I created this cheat sheet that has pretty much all of the most important APIs that you really need to know, all laid out. So it just kind of gives a good overview of CanJS if you're looking for like, oh, I want to be on one page and be like, oh, how do you do, I don't know if I did register yet, but how do I do default or something, right? Oh, there's like a default example. Like, yeah, the value listened to kind of thing. So this allows people to hopefully find quick examples for the majority of use cases. And I think it does a good job of just laying out, like, especially the can stash and the can, the new model stuff is laid out pretty nicely, I think. So, take a look at that. That's it for me.
Sweet. Thanks, Justin. Kevin, do you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been talking about dev tools for the last couple weeks. I thought I'd take a little bit of time this week to talk about how DevTools works and how to debug it. Hopefully people have started using it and are probably running into issues. So hopefully this will help you understand what's going on. Let me share my screen. Okay, so DevTools. So there's a couple different projects that make up the CanJS DevTools. The main one is CanJS/DevTools. This is what it actually gets deployed to like the Chrome web store where you install the extension from. And then there's a second one called Can DevTools Components, which is more of a generic DoneJS app that contains the components. So I can show the code off for that one a little bit. So this is the components repo here, and I've got the code over here. So this is just a bunch of DoneJS components. You can look at, they've got.
I want to make that font bigger.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but that's fine. Let me pick a different one. Cool. So they have demo pages, hopefully. Yeah, so they have demo pages, they have test files, things like that. This is just, I guess I didn't make that work, but there is a main test page that runs all the tests for all the components. This is all super slow with my streaming. So yeah, this is what people typically build on JS. So there's nothing really crazy going on here. The more complicated one is the main CanJS DevTools project. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about how that works. So we'll just take a look at this binding graph component. So all Chrome extensions start with this manifest.json file, which basically tells Chrome what to load when you actually open the DevTool, when this extension runs. So that's like this main index file, which has all it does is load this script. And this script is what actually like sets up DevTools. None of this stuff is really that important. It just creates these different, what they call sidebar panels for each of these, for this one. These are all separate applications in Chrome. So let's take a look at one of those. So the bindings graph, the graph that we were looking at, this loads the DevTools components built file. So it has access to all of the components, and then this helper file, and then the main, which is what we'll look at now. So this also is just a can component.
Are you actually committing your node modules folder?
Committing it to,
or you publish this as like a package or something? Like I just see .. /node modules. Like how does maybe you'll get into it eventually, like how you bundle it all up and.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not committed to GitHub, but yeah, the node modules file is included in the package that gets published to the Chrome web store. It's really just a zip file of this entire directory. Okay, so the bindings graph, there's this component which gets built by this graph file. So what that does is that adds to the page the bindings graph that's created by this other project, the DevTools components project, and then it passes it the data that we load through the Chrome APIs. And so the way that works is basically when this app is added, I run this function called get bindings graph data with this kind of helper function. So this is what's getting the data from your application. So that has to kind of run in your page in order to get like the graph data for this input, which is in the page. I have to run some code in the page. So the way that it does that is there's this other file called the CanJS DevTools injected script. So this is what's actually running in the user's page. So like for the bindings graph, I'm running get binding graph data, and that's a function that's in here. So that's running this function to get the data from the element that's selected. So it gets past the $0, the element that's selected in Chrome, and it runs a bunch of stuff and returns back the data for that graph. which is very, very confusing. But there's basically two things that happen. There's this code, the bindings graph code that runs in the DevTools panel, and then there's this injected script that runs in the user's page.
How do you inject that script?
This gets injected. So if we go back to the manifest, there's this content script that gets injected, and that content script goes and injects this script with this code, creates a script tag, sets that URL, and injects it. Okay, cool. So if you're using DevTools and it looks like something is broken, how do you debug it? That's kind of the point of all this. So there's kind of those two files that we need to look at. So for the injected script, this gets injected in your page. So really, it'll come up in your sources just like every other, just a little bigger, just like any other script. So you can just find it here. What I do is Command O and then look for injected script, and you can debug that. So for this get bindings graph data, we can see if we select a new.
Can you reveal which folder does it get put under?
I think it just gets put in the root.
You can right-click the tab, and if you select the tab and then you right-click it, you can like reveal.
Cool. Nice. So yeah, it gets put under this DoneJS DevTools, which is nice. So that's the first place to look. If it looks like something is going wrong, you can put breakpoints in here, obviously, and debug those. If that's okay, the other thing that you can do is debug the code that's running on the DevTools side by opening up one of these, the panel that you want to debug, and then you can actually inspect the DevTools, and it will bring up another set of DevTools for those DevTools, and then you can find like the code that's running on the Chrome side, like this bindings graph component, and we can debug that stuff there.
Go one layer deeper.
I don't think you can. Let me see. Yeah, I don't.
Is this?
Oh, you can. Oh, I take it back. You can. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. So this is the DevTools for the DevTools for the DevTools. So yeah, you can just keep going all the way DevTools all the way down. Cool. So that's that. It's all confusing, and there's actually a couple other scripts in between in the DevTools that I skipped over because it makes it even more confusing. But hopefully that gives a little bit of insight, and all of this will be documented in the DevTools README once I have a chance to do that. But hopefully that helps a little bit.
Sweet. Thanks, Kevin. Manuel, would you like to demo what you've been working on?
Sure. Well, I've been working on over the last couple of weeks. It's been some issues regarding Steel 2.0 and also some bugs. The things that I've been doing in Steel, like I didn't think it was like nice to demo. I think those are pretty boring, but I would like to show you actually a bug that Kevin found, and for some it might be interesting to see the actual fix. So I'm trying to share my screen here, but for some reason my mouse doesn't want to work. There we go. So what you're seeing right now is it's just the sample app that I created in Steel Tools to replicate the error that Kevin found. And basically, it's just a really simple app. The main it's doing nothing interesting at all other than importing the CSS file. And what I want you to see in the dev HTML is the script tag that loads Steel. We are using the depth bundle attribute to let Steel know that we are using depth bundle, and we are using a custom folder where the bundle is located. If you haven't used the bundles before, the default location is at the root of the project, which would be this depth bundle CSS folder that I have on the left side. But in this case, I'm using a custom folder. And I already went ahead and created the bundles. We can see the files here. And I'll show you in the browser what was the problem. And it's that when you try to load the page, it fails to load the bundle CSS. And for the main file, the bundle, there is no problem because basically we're getting the location of the bundle from the script, but the way that the CSS is loaded is different. We are in a production environment, sort of. So when Steel Tools compiles the bundle, it creates a CSS bundle for all the CSS you're using. And if I can inspect this here and I can locate the place where this is being imported, yeah, I can put a breakpoint in here. This is the bundles extension of Steel.js. And when I load this, I can see where the normalized name of the bundle is coming. And I'll save you some debugging time, and I'll go ahead and show you where that path is coming from. And this file you're seeing here, this is the bundle.js, which was created by Steel Tools. And one of the first things you find in the bundle is this system bundles config file that Steel Tools creates. This is basically just a map of the bundle's name and all the stuff that it contains. And this key is the part that we are interested of. This is the one that you see right here in the normalized. And for regular bundles, for regular production bundles, or bundles are located started from bundles, and then the name of the bundle itself. And then Steel itself has paths that helps them locate the bundles around time. And when you use a custom destination, when you are doing just your regular production bundles, the only thing you need to do if you're using a custom destination is just to set a bundles path value here. And in my case, would be something like custom best bundles. But since development bundles are different, we don't put it in a bundles folder. Sorry, we put it just in the folder that you provided when the bundle were created, which is right here, the property dest. The way that I fixed this, and let me remove this, is in Steel Tools itself, there is this module called make bundle. This is a stream that takes the dependency graph of your application, filter of the modules you want in the final bundle, and creates a bundle out of it. And there is this line here that creates a bundles config, which is the line we just saw right here. We create an object, and then we attach that to the bundle and write it out as part of the bundle itself. And what I did was just to provide this function get bundle name. By default, before we just return the bundle name, which is the one that you see right here. And what we did was just to, let me remove this and uncomment this line. Now the bundle name includes the destination as part of the name. And if I run this thing again, hopefully it works. Let me check that the bundle CSS again. Where is it? It would be my test folder. And then right here. Okay, so you see now that the custom dest, the name of the destination folder, is part of the bundle name. And when I reload this thing, let me go ahead and do it and continue. It works now and knows how to locate the bundle. And that was it.
Sweet. Thanks, Manuel. Matthew, you want to go next?
Yes, I do. Try not to cough too much during this. Oh, all right. So I've been working on, one of the things I've been working on is app upgrades, making sure our apps work with CanJS 5.0. And eventually we're going to release another new version of DoneJS. So we want that to use CanJS 5.0. So I want to show off some of the diffs that we get here. I think it's pretty cool. Let's look at, this is the Place My Order app. If you haven't seen this one, check out the guide on DoneJS.com. This is a restaurant model. So probably the biggest, well, not the biggest feature. The second biggest feature of CanJS 5.0 is that we support tree shaking, and this means that you can import everything from Can if you wanted to, and just use the individual parts, and it will tree shake out all the stuff that you don't use. This is not necessarily something you might do in your app if you have a big app, but it makes for better demos and stuff. So yeah, you can see here that we condensed down what was 4 lines of canned imports down to just 1 single line with plucking out parts that we need. In a lot of cases, you see people importing like many more things than this even in their modules. So it really reduces the amount of clutter in the top of your file with imports. But even cooler than that is down here. We just get rid of set algebra thanks to canned query logic. Here we are defining our algebra. We were saying this is the ID prop, and then we were saying that this can use dot notation. One cool thing with canned query logic is that it defines a new symbol for schemas, and define map implements this symbol. So we can define our schema directly within our define map, which I think I really like that, because you kind of put all of your information in one place. This is about a restaurant. The underscore ID property is an identity. Its type is any. It's all there together. And we just get rid of all this code. It's really nice. And you don't have to pass it into your connection or anything. Like Justin showed earlier, there's now the real-time REST model, which replaces Supermap. It's able to get the schema information directly from the map. So I really like that one. Another one I want to show is, this one's kind of incomplete to some degree, but it's prompted some changes. I'll show you this first. So prompted some changes that Manuel was working on. This is old demo page. It used to be a script type equals text stash with a bunch of canned imports, and then usually like your component. And you would use done auto render as your main in order to kick all this off. But now it's a little bit cleaner, and we just jump to this file and show that. You all can see that okay. This is the way it looks right now. I'll talk about ways we might change this, but actually thanks to something that Manuel worked on, which he said was boring, we don't have to do this anymore, which has always been kind of weird, and I've not liked the fact that we had to expose that to the user. So just have your still script tag, and you can use script type equals still module. This is something that's been supported for a few releases. I think Julian implemented this actually. And you can just have your imports directly right here. We don't have to put our PMO restaurant list inside of a still text stash, because we have auto mount now. So these are automatically mounted. Becomes a web component in supported browsers, or like mutation observers is used for others. But the cool thing is you can just directly put your component in the page for these demos, which is pretty nice. We talked about like to get your input on this, Julian. We talked about maybe having a new tag for Steel. So instead of having to do this, even though you'd still use this if you're like doing stuff inside of here, like if you were doing this and I don't know, for some reason you needed to call some function with the list or something, it's still useful for that. But if all you're doing is importing stuff, might be cool to have something like Steel import from or something similar to the can import, but obviously the can import doesn't work directly in the page. So something like that. Instead of having this, you'd replace it with a bunch of these. I don't know if that's what people think about that, but it's kind of an idea that's floating around there. But yeah, demo pages, we want to clean these up. I think it's already a lot cleaner, but continue to think about that. Yeah, so that's all I have here. I've been working on build issues since kind of had to take a pause on upgrading the apps, work on some build issues with tree shaking, trying to finish those up, and then we'll see where we go from there. That's all for me.
Sweet. Thanks, Matthew. Ryan, do you have anything you want to demo?
Yeah, let's see here. I have been working on share my screen here. been working on a project called Ilum. Let's see if I can. I'm really slow. Working on a project called Ilum, which is basically CanJS bindings for React. And this will allow you to build React applications using CanJS's observable objects as your state layer. And whenever objects change, your components will automatically re-render. Let's see, this is the main GitHub page. Not too much to see here. Define Ilum, primordial matter of the universe. More importantly, what we've been working on is getting this homepage ready for final release. This homepage kind of takes you through a quick and easy overview of Ilum, what its benefits are, how much shorter the code is than using React state management. We might show other examples. It's the shortest code possible for managing state in React. Yeah, other examples down here. This is a paginated grid. I won't go through the actual code, but you can see this white space here just represents the amount of code you didn't have to write using Ilum. And we've been working on actual live demos that are ready to go in the browser. This is a new tool that Chasen showed me a couple weeks ago. Allows you to just build projects online. You can then clone these projects or fork them, push them to GitHub, download them as a zip. It's really neat. So these are just kind of ready to go projects using Ilum and showing how it compares to how you would do things in React. So this page, for example, shows the same component implemented in Ilum and React. And you can go look at the code for each of these and you know, and see how much easier it is with Ilum. Let's see, for anybody listening, do not if you're using what was previous React View Model, do not upgrade yet. We are getting very close to release, but it's not release ready today. So don't quite upgrade your app yet. I think that's all I've got.
So, Ryan, what's the main benefit of using React instead of Stash?
Instead of Stash, React is kind of the popular kid on the block right now. A lot of clients are wanting it. A lot of people Stash has a little bit more of a niche crowd within the CanJS community, whereas React has a very broad community right now.
Yeah, but it's only about the Vue. It's only about JSX, right? It's
pretty much, yeah. React doesn't really do much itself. React is basically just JSX. The complex part of building React applications is the state layer. And there's tools like Redux and MobX and a couple others that are being widely used, but they all require a lot of convention, a lot of boilerplate, and just a lot of unnecessary code, a lot of like ramp up time to understand how to use it. And Ilum seeks to mitigate that. Basically, if you just know plain JS and how to mutate JavaScript objects, then you know how to use Ilum as your state management tool. There's no actions and reducers and having to learn how to do immutable state and all that kind of stuff. Those are all overhead pieces with the other state management solutions.
So you don't have the pattern for state that you have actions passing objects around and using functions for mutate the state. That's not in Island. That's
correct.
Okay.
Correct. And this example kind of shows on the left you've got React, and usually you have to create these callbacks that will eventually update the state using this .setState. If this was Redux, this would be you would be emitting actions, and that some other code somewhere else would have to then handle that action and reduce your state down into a new state. And it's just, those are all concepts that are difficult to learn. Here on the Ilum side, there's no passing callbacks around, there's no setting state. You have your state object, and eventually when someone clicks next, you just increment the offset, just like you would in plain JavaScript. There's no conventions, no naming, no actions. It's just literally plain JavaScript. And I think that's going to be one of the hardest concepts to learn. I think everybody's used to having to learn a whole new way of programming to manage state in React apps. And this is kind of bringing us back to, no, just all you have to know is JavaScript. Create a state, update it whenever you need to, and just know that your app's going to re-render. And so,
okay. And how do you pass, or how do you create a component in the DOM? Is there like do you have to insert the component like in Stash before, or is there a polyfill for components, or how does it work?
Let's see. With React, like, are you asking about like React and Stash working together, or?
Yeah, if you're creating a component, for example, the page in Nate Grid, how do you create it, the component, or how do you insert it into the DOM?
Let's see. It's a different, like, you kind of have to know React at that point, because it's a slightly different way of doing it than in CanJS, where you define, or Stash rather, where in Stash you define a component, and now you have a tag that's like, you basically will get my components or something that you can insert into the DOM somewhere. With React, components are just JavaScript functions or classes, if you will. So you would have your class usually extends React.component, but it can just be a simple function if you want to. Let's see, wasn't planning on doing a coding demo, or else I would have had some examples ready to go. But you import somewhere down the road, you import your component you import your component, and you actually just use it like this. And you can pass props down to it, name equals foo. And then use that this props.foo, or name rather. You would see foo print here. So if you don't know React, it's a different paradigm, or not a different paradigm, but a different way of doing things than Stash. And so the assumption is that to use Ilum, that you're familiar with React, at least on a basic level. And what you would do with Ilum is to set up an initial state. This.state equals the value passed in would be props.name, and then in your view, you would now use this state the value passed in. Feel like I'm kind of giving a little bit of a basic React demo at this point, and it's a little bit above the scope of this thing. But if you're familiar with React, just know that your state layer now is observable. Whenever any data inside of your state changes, your app will automatically re-render.
Okay.
That's the big thing to know.
So for your main component, you'd still use like React render or whatever to render it
Yes.
into the page.
Yep. We're slightly we're making some changes right now, so I don't want to show too much, but basically in the short of it, what we're, I think, going to go after is whatever your component is, whether it's just a simple function or a React component, if you decorate it with Ilum, then this becomes a reactive component, meaning the fact Ilum's able to see that the state was read in here, and it will it's basically this render function becomes like a compute. So whenever any value used inside this render function changes, it will automatically re-render. That's the short of it. Don't write a blog post about what I just said quite yet.
But the way to do it now is to Ilum has its own component. Is that how you make?
Yeah, right now,
right
now Ilum has its own component that sets up those things. But we're not sure. We have a meeting today, but I think we're going to get away from this so that you can have, just a simple function renderer, that takes props, and then you can decorate this and as long as these props coming in are an observable object, Ilum will pick up on those.
Are you sure that works? I was thinking that decorators only work on classes. I could be wrong, but that's...
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I don't think you can do
that. Okay, so then this is just part of...
What did you say? My internet is terrible.
We were saying, Kevin and I, we think that you can't decorate functions. You can only decorate classes or stuff within classes. I think. I could be wrong. That's my understanding.
And this is the realm. We haven't tested this yet because we just kind of decided to make this change yesterday. So we haven't really gotten into deep testing. But the goal, if it's not this, then you would be able to, when you export default, you would just wrap your component like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. I'm excited to get it out. There's a couple other people here at Toby. We've been working pretty hard at it, and I think we're getting really close.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it for demos. Does anyone have topics before we go? I didn't see any in the forums, but nope. Cool. Then I think we'll call it. To everyone who is watching on YouTube, thanks for watching, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. Actually, so next week, I think it's next week, we'll be putting out another survey. So next Friday, we'll have a stream talking about the survey proposals, and then we'll be back for our regular contributors meeting in 2 weeks. See you guys then. Bye.
Bye.